Emotions, noticing and accepting. So far, we have explored about how the thoughts that our brains create can either impede or support our ability to move forward purposefully in times of challenges, and practice ways in which we can work with these thoughts to move forward positively. Remember that our thoughts are often accompanied by emotions, and sometimes it's not only our thoughts but also our emotions that can work against us to move forward positively when we face challenges. So, what habits have you developed in terms of how you respond to emotions, especially unpleasant ones? I can say for myself that sometimes when I have very emotional experiences like anger or stress, I can say things that are hurtful to the people I love or do things that don't seem very rational and I regret later. These behaviors sometimes prevent me and others from moving forward effectively from challenges. So, how you respond to emotions can either impede or support our ability to get up after a fall. Let's explore together what emotions are and how we can develop habits to work positively with emotions, especially unpleasant ones. So, how are you? Are you finding yourself saying, I'm fine? Oftentimes, when I ask my students in class, how are you? I get three types of answers. I'm okay, or I'm bad, or I'm tired. Now, although tired says something a little more specific about how my students are, oftentimes we get in the pattern of describing our feelings in very broad terms like okay or bad. We rarely take our time to break down these overall feelings to really try to identify what it is that we're feeling. So, for example, when we're feeling bad, bad can be stressed or tired or disappointed. Now, the reason why we don't specify our feelings might be because when we ask others, how are you? We often do it in passing and we only really give time for one word answer to be shared. So we get in a habit to just share the very bare minimum. Now, some of you may pay so little attention to what you're feeling that you might wonder if you even have any feelings within you. So let's do a little practice here and see if you are capable of feeling. For this practice, I want us to really pay attention to the feelings on the inside, the feelings that show up in the body. As we begin this activity, find a comfortable position, closing your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and getting as quiet as possible. Find your breath in your body and just feel its movement for 3 breaths. We'll be practicing paying attention to feelings on the inside. We'll be paying special attention to where the feelings show up in the body. Remember that we're just observing the sensations of the body as they reflect the energy of the feelings. We're not trying to change or cover up anything. Now let's start with happiness. See if you can experience what happiness feels like in your body. To help you do this, you might remember a time when you felt happy. Perhaps you might remember the last time when someone that you liked says to you that they like you back. Or when you got a grade that you wanted or even better in a subject. Notice the sensations in your body, perhaps in the area of the heart. What are the sensations like? Are they warm, light, bright, loud, or soft, like a whisper? As you sit here feeling happiness, be curious about this feeling. Notice if it gets stronger or if it fades away. Now choose to investigate our mild but uncomfortable feeling maybe worry or anger. For worry, you might remember the time when you didn't know what to do for your big presentation the next day. Or for anger, you might remember the time when you end up doing everything for the team project and your teammates blamed you for the poor grade. See if you can begin to experience worry or anger in your body. Notice any sensations, perhaps in the belly, in your shoulders or back, in your forehead or jaw. What are the sensations like? Are they hot, tight, burning, cold, or sharp? Do they move around or are they fixed? As you sit here, be curious about this feeling. Notice if it gets stronger or if it fades away. See if you can just observe it without covering it up. Now, bring to mind the feeling of peacefulness. See if you can experience what peacefulness feels like in your body. To help you do this, you might remember a time when you felt peaceful. Notice the sensations in your body. What are the sensations like? Are they in one place or throughout your body? Be curious about this feeling. Notice if it gets stronger or if it fades away. Notice the connections between your feelings and the sensations in your body. Now return your attention to your breath and focus on the movement of the breath at your belly. And when you're ready, you can blink your eyes open. Now, emotion is like a surge of energy that comes and goes. It shows up in our body in a form of sensations. As your emotion shifts from one to the other, like in the previous practice, if you pay careful attention, you would also notice that the sensations you feel in your body changed as well. Sometimes we use emotions and feelings interchangeably, but they are technically two different things. Emotions come in a form of physical sensations, and feelings are the names we put to these physical sensations. What's interesting is that no matter how strong certain emotions may be, they are impermanent and they come and go like the waves in the ocean. Now, I was actually able to recognize this clearly during one of the meditation sessions I had during my 10-day silent retreat. I was sitting for hours in one spot meditating, and over time, pain started to appear in some parts of the body and built up gradually. A few hours in, I felt as though my whole body was throbbing in pain and felt completely consumed by the distress that came with it. Now, even though my attention kept going to the sensations of pain, I kept breathing slowly and I continued my meditation, slowly scanning my body from the top of my head to my toes. And something amazing happened. Although I felt like my entire body was in pain, I noticed that the pain was actually focused in some spots in my thighs and my pelvis, but the rest of the body was actually in peace, soft, and relaxed. This is when I noticed that I was not my emotions. It was an experience that I was having in the moment, only in certain parts of the body. Then, as I continued to accept these sensations and feelings, I realized that they shifted from one part of the body to the next, and it became clear to me the impermanence of my emotional experience. Now, while emotions may be impermanent, does everyone feel? Well, have you gone through a heartbreak before? If you have, it feels quite bad, doesn't it? When you're going through something like a heartbreak, you might think that you're the only person who is experiencing this. Now, the truth is, everyone feels and everyone experiences different emotions for different situations in our lives. Some may feel more sensitively than others, and some may be better at suppressing certain emotions than others, but everyone has feelings, no matter what gender you belong to, what nationalities or age group you may be part of. Now, in some cultures, especially boys, may be raised to be not emotional, as this is a sign of weakness. What I want to clarify is that we feel emotions simply because we are human, and that feeling emotion is not a sign of weakness or imperfection. So next time when you're going through a heartbreak, rest in the fact that no matter how strong someone may seem from the outside, they would have experienced the emotions associated with it. Everyone feels. So, what kind of feelings have you felt in your life? So many that you can't keep track of them? Well, when we think about all the different feelings we have experienced in our life, we have a tendency to classify them as either positive or negative. However, this classification is not helpful because as humans, we experience all kinds of feelings and all feelings are helpful. Now, you might wonder how are feelings like stress, anger, or disappointment that we associate with being negative feelings helpful in our lives? Well, if you remember, these feelings actually inform us of our humans' needs that are not met. So, for example, if you're feeling anxious, you may be seeking for some more stability or consistency. If you are feeling frustrated, you may be looking for cooperation. These feelings don't feel great, and when we experience them, our tendency may be to try to get rid of them as fast as possible. However, if you take a little time to be curious and explore why you may be experiencing these feelings, you can find out more about what's important for you that's not fulfilled and inform you of how you may want to proceed moving forward to fulfill these unmet needs. So, rather than classifying the feelings as either positive or negative, it's a lot more useful to classify them as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Some feelings don't feel great and are unpleasant, but they're not negative. In fact, we can accept them and thank them for informing us of something important in our lives and showing up to try to keep us safe. So, where do these emotions come from? Let's explore what's happening in our brain when we're experiencing emotions. There are essentially two parts of the brain that are important to know, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala has a function of a security guard in your body. So what do security guards do? Basically, security guards are there to keep us safe. The amygdala is composed of two almond-shaped structures located in the bottom center of the brain, also known as the survival part of the brain. Not only does the amygdala process emotions, but it also is highly activated during the fight, flight, or freeze response. During this response, the amygdala initiates our survival, arousal, and autonomic responses like hearts beating faster or pupils dilating, and it's designed to keep us safe from possible threats to our survival. Now, usually, when a stimulus like spilling a cup of coffee or sleeping through an alarm clock happens, the amygdala is activated, which arouses emotions, perhaps of slight panic, and activates reactions in your heart, like your heart beating faster. However, the amygdala is also able to connect with the prefrontal cortex in the neural signaling, which helps to process the stimulus in a way that allows us to make decisions rationally, which allows us to wipe the coffee off or get ready for school without having the emotions completely take over. However, our amygdala can sometimes be activated more strongly to certain stimuli like encountering a bear or falling off the bike, which can get us in a fight, flight, or freeze response. In these cases, the neural signaling that usually reaches the prefrontal cortex is severed, which makes us react only in ways that our amygdala dictates, which is purely to keep us safe for our survival. These reactions may not be rational and may not be based on growth for ourselves or others. So, what does the prefrontal cortex do exactly? It actually takes on a role like a conductor in an orchestra. So, what does a conductor in an orchestra do? The prefrontal cortex does many things from organizing, regulating attention, making decisions, to moderating behavior. It's also known as the growth part of the brain and allows us to connect to possibilities and opportunities without making every action about keeping us safe from danger and staying in a survival state. So, what are some things you do well that are controlled by the prefrontal cortex on a day-to-day basis? What are some things that you have trouble doing that are controlled by the prefrontal cortex? Now, when was the last time that you felt very strong emotions like stress or joy, deep sadness, or hopelessness? Where did you feel this in your body? When you felt overtaken by this emotion, were you able to still focus on what's important in the moment and engage in it? Well, last time I felt a very strong emotion was when I was having a conversation with my sister, and she was sharing with me one after another the things that she was not happy with me about. She was recalling episodes from years ago about things that I said and things that I did that were in her eyes mean, insensitive, and hurtful. I couldn't remember half of them, but they kept coming one after another. Now, although I sat quietly with the intention to listen fully and take them all in, about 40 minutes into the conversation, I started to speak up to defend myself, and this triggered a huge surge of anger from within, a burning sensation in my chest and rising energy, and my voice got louder and louder as I spoke, and I was starting to hit my hands on the table harder and harder. I was shouting back at the end, feeling angry for being labeled to be utterly evil for all the wrongdoings I have done, when I believe that I have also done many things that were caring in the past. These actions almost came uncontrollably, and in the moment, I felt that the emotional energy was taking over me, and I was not able to make rational decisions. The amygdala and the survival part of the brain have taken over. So, we all have these emotional experiences from time to time, and we wish that even in these challenging moments, we can still access the growth part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, rather than being completely taken over by the survival part of the brain, which is the amygdala. What's hopeful, however, is that we're starting to understand from research that mindfulness practices actually help to change our brain to help us access the prefrontal cortex or the growth part of the brain during these challenging moments, rather than allowing the amygdala or the survival part of the brain to completely run the show. Research shows that the mindfulness practice calms the activity of amygdala and increases a feeling of calm and clarity. Some of you, perhaps when you're practicing mindfulness of breath or body scan, may have noticed a feeling of calm and clarity at the end of your sessions. Now, mindfulness practice also generates less activity in the right prefrontal cortex, which generates distressing emotions, and more activity in the left prefrontal cortex, which is a center for upbeat, optimistic feelings. And this allows us to respond to emotional activation with more purpose and focus on growth. The bottom line is, it's good to keep up a mindfulness practice, as over time, it helps to change our brain in a way to regulate our emotions effectively, especially in times of challenges. In summary, we learned that emotions are what all humans experience, learn about the brain parts that are responsible for generating them, and that all emotions, whether they are pleasant or unpleasant, are useful. What's important to remember is no matter how bad our emotions may feel within you during challenges, feelings are all impermanent. They're like waves that come and go, and we can surf the waves. We don't just have to wait for these emotions to go away, but we can curiously explore these emotions to find out more about our needs. So, I'm going to wrap up this lesson by sharing with you a poem by Rumi called The Guest House. The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So for your practice, you'll be engaging with an app called the Mood Meter, which can be downloaded for a very small cost from an app store. This helps to keep track of your emotions several times a day so that you can learn more about your emotional experiences on a day-to-day basis. Enjoy your curious exploration of your emotional lives.